record this. I forgot. I'm going to record this. So the Varsity Learning Support course is where we post all the help documents, student registration guide. So get your students registered very simply. They go to Varsity Learning. Each time you create a course in Varsity, there's a unique course ID. And this is not a Word doc, a Google Doc that you can copy and paste into an email or your own document for your students. Back to the support course, that was the first link here in the support course. The how-to guides are more in-depth than we usually do on the webinars, but they kind of go over all the topics that we discuss. Then we have some discussion forums, so teachers that use Varsity can use these discussion forums to ask us and other teachers about this as well. And so those are a great way to start discussions. Maybe if people at Varsity, we can't help you with something, maybe somebody that's used Varsity has some ideas as well. And then we do have worksheets created. Worksheets are great. We posted both PDF versions and Word versions of these. Obviously the Word versions are completely editable, so you can make these into whatever you want. They have answers as well. So worksheets available for pre-algebra, algebra 1, and algebra 2 within the Varsity Learning Support course. Okay, so let's go into a regular course. Here's my list of courses. I have a algebra 1 course here. There's some initial things at the top. You can just do a welcome to your students if you want. How to enter answers in Varsity Learning, and then a list of topics. So here's some topics in an Algebra 1 course, equations and inequalities. And so this isn't the OpenStax course, this is the regular Algebra 1 template. And we call these the notes, and these notes are, again, completely customizable and editable by faculty. Starts with some vocab, any properties and definitions, and then we put a video or two right in here so students can watch a video. So these can be done in class. When I was teaching, I'd project the Varsity Learning screen onto the whiteboard, and I could play a video for them that they would obviously have access to when they went home to watch it again. And it made it nice to kind of organize my notes within Varsity, so it had the big points, and then they can take additional notes as well. But the main part of Varsity Learning are the actual assignments. So let's look at that. Let's look at addition, property of equality. Click here. So in this template, all the assignments start with a vocab question, just meant for the students to do the reading so they understand the material a little bit better. And then they're given a question. I can see the answer because I'm in teacher mode. But most of the answers are similar to this, where they're fill in the blank, free response. Student submits the wrong answer. After the third attempt, they're shown the correct answer, and then they can try another similar question. And then the system generates a new question. It's going to have the same number of steps, really the same steps, but with different values. So the advantage of a algorithmic system is that every student's going to get a different version of these questions. All their answers go right into the gradebook, so you can see that right away. And it's a great tool to give students extra practice. Now, when it's used at a school, and then students can be sure that they're getting similar assignments. If teachers want to share assignments, it makes it even easier to create these when you work together. So that's kind of the main part. And then there's a lot of ability in Varsity for teachers to customize these assignments. If you see in my course, the gear icon here, this is where all the options are for teachers. So I can select new questions. I can change the settings. Just take a look at the questions here. So you can see there's 20 questions as an assignment, and then it opens up into an even bigger selection of questions here to choose from. So you can choose more questions that are available in the assignment. You can see that the assignment is either multi-part, multiple choice, a number question, if it's calculated. You can change the point value, get an idea of how long it takes students to work that problem. So a longer problem, sometimes more difficult, sometimes just more parts to it. And so you get a lot of information here. And there's also more analytics after your students have worked assignments. And all that is saved and it's available to you. Is this a good time for questions? So I can show you the gradebook. There's a full-featured gradebook in Varsity Learning. If looks like I have a fake student in here. You can scroll through all the assignments. If a student had opened an assignment, then you can click on that student's score, and you can see the questions that were generated for this student, and then how long it took that student to answer, as well as their answer. So a lot of information in the gradebook by clicking on a student's score. You can kind of get an idea for the type of question here. All the math here is ADA compliant. It's going to zoom in so you can expand it with your browser. So if you just make your browser, the font's bigger, the math equations and expressions zoom, expand with it. So it's completely ADA compliant as well. Let's see, from the gradebook, you can set up different categories, just like your syllabus. You can have online homework, quizzes, tests. You can keep a number of high scores, drop a number of low scores. Kind of everything you expect from a gradebook is built into Varsity Learning. Save that. Obviously, everybody expects to go back to school at some point, so you're going to have offline grades. That's just anything you do in class. Very easy to add an offline grade to the Varsity Learning gradebook. Go to offline grades, choose add. Maybe I did a quiz in class. Just give that item a name. Give it a point total. A due date, so it's going to default to whatever the current date and time is, but very easy to change. So at the start of a semester, you can enter all your quizzes and just set the dates from when you want those to show to students. The key is putting that item in the correct category in the gradebook, and this drop-down is just going to reflect that screen we just looked at. From settings, we added the test category, but here's the quizzes category. We want quiz 1 to be a quiz. And now we see a list of students. This is just our only student in here. Give that student a grade, and then we can give them some feedback as well. Submit it. Now we see that there is quizzes categories worth 25%. We can come up to the category drop down and just isolate all the quizzes so we don't have to look at the online homework scores at the same time. And we see there's quiz 1. The student got 48. There's a little asterisk, so we can click on that and see that the student has some feedback. So full-featured gradebook. I don't know if you saw it. You can drop a number of drop low scores or keep high scores in here as well. Best of all, the gradebook is going to export to a spreadsheet, so then you can import it into whatever you need to for your school. Obviously, schools nowadays have gradebooks that your administration principals need to see, so you can download the Varsity Learning gradebook to a CSV, which is just generic spreadsheet file, or an Excel file, and then you can easily upload those to your main gradebook. So it's all pretty straightforward, standard stuff. Okay, any questions so far? It's probably a lot to take.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Are you able to like customize like an assignment to like a specific student? Say like Bobby really needs help with a pre-algebra concept, even though he's in algebra 2. Are you able to go back and pull something out of the pre-algebra class, or are you kind of restricted to just whatever courses you've started?
So you're not restricted at all. You can bring in items from any course you want. I can show that. It's as easy as this. What is more difficult about what you're just asking is having an assignment just be available to one student. So if you're not using the Varsity Learning gradebook, you can just tell students what they need to do and what they don't. When I was teaching, I actually had two different Varsity Learning courses for my one class. And so some students had to go into I guess we call those co-requisites now, but get some remediation, get the review material in. So they all knew that they had to go into that course. And then the main course is where they do the new topics. So very easy to do both. It's just a matter of deciding how you want to set that up. But to pull courses, I just go to course items copy. I come to these template courses. I find that pre-algebra template. I want to take some material from there, and I don't want to copy the whole template. I just want to copy some items, and let's just get a little review of order of operations, for example. Do that, copy it, and then that item is here. So it's topic A8, so you want to rename it because there's already an A8, I think. It's pre-algebra review. There might be. So when you're so I could just put it right there and it could be a new topic. So there's complete flexibility on the teacher's part to create their own custom courses. And a lot of people think they want to use Varsity for their main Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 or their main course homework, but it also works really well just to have it as a review course. So what we did, and it worked really well, is I used it for my main course, and then there was 3 or 4 other teachers, and then we just threw all 100, it was like 120 students into a separate course that was more remediation. So even if there was no new topics or there was assembly or for whatever reason the class didn't meet, students would still have homework on the remediation. Now the idea was that they didn't need to get out their notebook or a pencil and paper. They could do it on their iPads or mobile devices. And it was meant to be review so they could just work through those problems quickly. And they didn't like it at first because it took them a long time. They're not used to doing math in their head because we tell them to show all their work their whole lives. And so then giving them an assignment that was meant to be done in their head, it was a lot of fun watching how good they got at that, how efficient they became at the problems that seemed to be giving them so much trouble. And just that repetition of doing those easier problems really helped them with their confidence and the overall grades and attitude about math. So really flexible the way you use Varsity. We just kind of make it available with all these topics, and then how you put those together is really a department decision, and we're just here to kind of support and guide you through best practices for that. But good question. I know everybody's going online, so we have a few features that are great for online stuff. I mean, besides just the videos that are available online, kind of already curated, ready to go. All of let me see if I can find fractions. So simplifying expressions. So a lot of teachers are using forums now in their math classes. We have forums integrated with Varsity Learning that are great anytime, but particularly useful during online-only classes. So the way a forum works, so I'm on question 7, and maybe I'm a student, I'm stuck. I can show the worked example here, but I need a little bit more help. So instead of emailing the teacher or messaging the teacher, I can post this question to a forum just by clicking this link if I'm a student. So doing that, the system's going to format the subject line. It's going to tell everybody that this is question number 7 in topic B6. Student can write a little note to everybody. Please help. I don't know how to do this. They post it. It's going to have the student's name attached to their post. That's going to cut down at any funny business right away. And then the system also prevents a different thread from popping up about topic B6. So all of the questions about this question are going to be posted here. And now we go in and we see the math is going to be formatted even better. It's going to be formatted just like you like. It's ADA compliant, consumable. And now anybody, not just the teacher, maybe you want to set up office hours and tell your students you're going to look at the forums for an hour each night between 8 and 9 o'clock. So you can upload an image, right? Write some math out by hand, take a picture of it, upload it to your computer, and then from the Varsity Learning forum, you can upload that picture so everybody can just see the work. Likewise, you can just attach that file. You can link to another website. And then we also have some math tools, so we can just communicate mathematically. So very easy to enter some equations if that's what's called for. We enter them with, we call it ASCII style, but it's just calculator math or spreadsheet math. I don't know what that line's doing there. And when we click out of here, it's going to display correctly. There's also a graph tool here. So if the question calls for a graph, very easy to communicate with the graph. We can give it a color, a line thickness, add it, and then we can add a second graph if we need to. Insert it. A little bit easier than your T84 screen, I think. Try to upload that picture. And so people can they can upload images if they want, but they can reply to other students' posts. They can start a whole thread, start communicating about the math. And students are very comfortable with this, as you can imagine. I mean, this is just like what they're doing on social media anyway. And now we give them a few tools, and all of a sudden they're discussing their math homework. It's all supervised by the instructor. Their name is attached to everything, so it takes out any funny business. So these forums, you can use forums however you want in Varsity Learning. It's just a matter of clicking the forum here to add a forum to any course. These template courses, though, we have the forums already integrated with each topic. So each topic has a forum integrated. So all the online homework questions have that post to a forum link. So all the topic F go to the topic F forums, all the topic E go to the topic E forum, so on and so forth. Let's see. So Gordon has a question. If you have more than one section of Algebra 2, is it easy to copy from one section to another? Yeah, so good question. So when you're getting into the details, these are kind of some of the decisions you're going to need to make. So frequently, someone's teaching the same course, 2 or 3 sections. It would be easier to throw everybody in the same varsity section. From the roster, you have a list of everybody, and then you can go up to assign sections or codes, and then just put this section, the student in section 1, and then another student in section 2. And then in your grade book, you would be able to sort it by section. So all the section 1 students would show up first, and all the section 2 students. Now the drawback of that saves you a lot of time. Now the drawback is that all the assignments have to be due on the same time. So there's no way to assign topic B1 to 2 different due dates. There's one due date for each assignment in Varsity. So if each class has its own due dates, you want to create 2 different Varsity Learning courses. If they have one, then you have the benefit, and if you use the forums, then you have twice as many people answering each other's questions in the forums. So it becomes less important if they're in your 3rd period or 5th period class that way. Either way, if you do need to make 2 courses, best to create 1 course first, and then very simple to just go in, open a blank course, and then copy that course that you've just created. You'll find it in My Courses if you were to log in, and then you copy that course and make a second version of it. And then each course has its own unique course ID. Every time you create a new course, is a new course ID, and you just make sure you give the students the correct course ID. from the student's getting started guide, that's the really only piece of information that you need to give them. They have their own email address and the course ID, so you give your students that 4-digit number here, and then that's all they need to enroll in your class. So
How many students can you add to each like section or class?
I don't know, hundreds.
Okay.
We have quite a few. Actually, we can look. The support course has a lot. Yeah, hundreds. There's no real limit. I think we have over 1,000. It just slows it down a little bit if you're looking at the grade book and you have a few hundred students. Yeah, we have 3,000 students in this class. And they're not students, they're all the teachers that are enrolled. So that's the course you should be enrolled in, the Varsity Learning Support course. Yeah, so no limit. So a lot of flexibility. It's kind of hard to understand how it can change your course or the benefits of it, unless you use it. It's hard to kind of know what questions to ask when your students aren't in there asking questions. We have an update coming next month, which is going to add even more features. They're going to be even better for online-only courses than just the forums that we have now. One of them is going to be called Live Poll, and that's where if you're doing a Zoom meeting like this, you would open up an assignment, and then everybody would do the assignment, and then everybody would see those answers. So just like the clicker technology that a lot of colleges have, except students would be able to answer those questions from their phone or laptop. Right now, we don't have it turned on where faculty can create their own questions, but we have over 100,000 questions. And at some point, we are going to open this up and request ideas for new questions if when we start needing new questions, when the questions we have aren't extending the courses enough. But we think it's a good base for everybody to get started, to give students plenty of practice without doing pencil and paper work. Very great for remediation, for communicating with your students. But eventually we'll open it up, and I even envision having webinars where we're going into the details of creating your own questions. Probably not till next summer, though.
And then how easy is it to share, let's say, because like most of us, we kind of overlap in what we're teaching, so we all work really similarly on
Mm-hmm.
different courses.
Yep.
Is there a way to easily take, like, let's say Gordon made an assignment, but I want to use it for my class?
Yep.
Is there an easy way to pull those together?
Yep. Very easy. So yeah, we'd recommend maybe somebody be in charge of each course, and then automatically any course you create is available to everybody in your group, and we would just want to make sure that everybody's in the same group, and then you have complete access to your group's courses. So if I go to my group's courses, I can go to Matt's courses, I can see, and I have complete access to those, and I can copy anything into my course. The other thing to do is at the start is to have everybody on the same course. So if you go to menu and Varsity Learning, I'm the teacher of this course, but I could just add and remove colleagues. So if I could add and remove people, then everybody's looking at not their own version of this course, but they're actually looking at the same course with the same course ID. So easy to do that
And do
too.
you recommend that instead of creating like my section of Algebra 2 and then Gordon's section of Algebra 2, it's just
Yeah.
this is Algebra 2,
Yeah. So
and then
right.
having us all on there?
Yeah. So I would recommend call that a group template, and then have everybody on the group template, and then not enroll students in that course, and then everybody maybe somebody work on chapter 1, somebody work on chapter 2, however you want to divvy up the work, but everybody would be a teacher on the same course ID. And then when you're ready, when you say, okay, the course is good, then you just create a new course, add new course, and you just start from my colleague's course. It's already a course you're teaching. You'd find the demo course that you were working on and just make a copy of that. And then the system creates a new course ID for that. So yeah, so however many courses, so if you're going to be teaching the same course, everybody start on the same. So when I say course ID, so there's no other teachers on this course. I'm the only one, I think. Yeah. But if I was to add somebody, they would show up there, and then when they log in, they'd see Algebra 1 Varsity Learning, and they'd see they're also in course 1622. And then everybody works on that, and then when the school year is ready, don't enroll students in that course, then everybody just makes their own copy of that course. And now those copies
So
aren't,
it's almost like creating like a sandbox for us to go through and adapt and change, add, and then all we have to do then is copy it over to our like
yeah,
these are my student
yep,
courses
yep. As soon as you make a
and
copy,
use it.
yep, it's no longer connected. So copies are no longer connected to the master course that was created or the group template. Yeah, once you make that copy, it's separate. Um, but yeah, it's great if when faculty work together and kind of solve some issues. And, like if you were to go through here, maybe you don't use the term, some of these terms. So someone's going to go through and just check on the vocabulary, make sure these are all terms that are used. Or maybe the definition in the textbook you're using are a little bit different. So maybe you're going to want to go through and just have somebody take um, the topic A vocabulary, and then somebody takes the topic B vocabulary, and then you kind of go through and decide what to do there. Or someone looks at the videos, and then once you do them all in the same course, then it's done for everybody, and then everybody has access to that.
And then in your experience, how because I know you're saying that you had like that separate remedial course.
Mhm.
How much pushback did those students give you because they had extra math homework?
That's a good question. So, regular students, there was a lot of pushback. The advanced students, there wasn't, which is obviously ironic, but not if you think about it, because they're good at math and said like doing math. So I tended to emphasize the remedial course more and just made sure that if they were doing the regular course, there was going to be fewer problems. So I wouldn't give 20 questions of each. And then, so the regular problems, the regular homework, like if this was a regular homework assignment, there might be 10 questions, and this is obviously due tomorrow. Where with the remedial course, they knew they had 4 sections, 4 assignments per week, and they were just due Sunday night. So they could log in whenever they want, don't even really answer questions on those. It's just a matter of them going in. Unfortunately, they would all do them at the same time because they got really good at them and they knew they could just log in once and do all 4 assignments quickly. So that's just a matter of them getting good. But for you know, there's so many disruptions during the school year, during a week that are unplanned. And it was just nice to be able to not feel guilty and keep the students doing math at home and not have to worry about them turning it in. You could see right away when they logged in if they turned it in or not. I found it particularly useful when the students were in it was a traditional geometry class and they'd forgotten so much Algebra 1 and just giving them the simple Algebra 1 questions they forgot. They went into that Algebra 2 class the next year really strong because even though we weren't emphasizing the algebra in the geometry class, they were doing it all year. So once they realized it's not that hard, there wasn't that much pushback to answer your question. Right? Because students don't like doing something when they feel frustrated and they feel like they're not going to be able to do it. They didn't understand what you did in class. The remedial assignments I made kind of took all those objections off the table because it was all math they knew how to do, right? Just fractions, order of operations, the stuff they didn't like doing, but they needed to be better at. So it helped them with that. yeah, we had over 100 students in that course. The other teachers just loved it because they knew that they had that to fall back on if they didn't get to the point in class where they could feel comfortable assigning that night's homework. They knew that there was homework available for them already.
And if we went with like the OpenStack classrooms, is
Mm-hmm.
there any extra like fees or anything that are associated with like using that because it has a textbook,
Nope.
or is it still
So the only so it's a little bit different. No, there's no fees involved with anything. Varsity Learning is free now. It's free next year. We intend on keeping it free. Uh, so the OpenStax, they have the textbooks, so they don't have the class notes like the others do. But this is a full textbook. We aren't doing any customization of these textbooks now, but we might in the future. We're in the preliminary stages of doing a customization of the calculus book to make it into an AP calculus book. So that's our project right now. But after that, we'll see where the high school math curriculum is, and then we'd want to customize these books to make them fit the math curriculum a little bit better. But that's a year away.
okay? And then for these like say you're working on, I don't know, solving linear equations and they're struggling, is there a way to pull this textbook entry over into your guys' templates, or is that not set up yet?
Oh yeah, that's absolutely set up. Yeah, so if I'm in the
Okay.
Algebra 1 course, it's just a matter of copy. Template courses, that's the OpenStax Elementary Algebra. Select course, select items, and here's the ebook. So this is the entire ebook. So
Hmm.
in these varsity courses, we have the entire ebook as one link, and then we link each chapter within the chapter block as well. So maybe you just want to bring the entire ebook, and then the answers are separate. So those are right there. So it'd just be a matter of that. And then down at the bottom, here's the OpenStax ebook. And then here are the answers, the odd answers and the triad answers to that ebook. Just PDFs. So yeah, the OpenStax books, it's hard to believe a little bit. These are print-ready PDFs that are legal to print. There's no the copyright is openly licensed. So they're available for you to print. You're not breaking any
Yeah,
rules.
we used OpenStack for a
Oh,
lot of my master's classes
oh,
and for a couple of the courses I took in college.
oh, great.
They're pretty great.
Okay, good. And so you taught out of them?
I didn't teach out of them, I learned out of them.
Oh, great. So you'll see the XYZ Homework Edition. So XYZ Homework is our other company, and that's XYZ Homework is not free, and that's the college solution, similar to Varsity, and that's why we're making Varsity free. Is because it's the same people. We spend most of our time helping the XYZ Homework people. Those students pay for it, and then we've created these books uh, for those people, and then we've just made them available in Varsity as well. Can I ask what
Yeah,
school?
they are super nice. WSU used them for a little while, and then WGU used a couple of them
Oh yeah,
as like reference texts.
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm usually explaining to high school teachers what OpenStax is.
it's pretty great. And then if you've done any work with like courses.com or any like PD that goes through that, they use OpenStax as well.
Oh, they do. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah, so we do plan on customizing those, but that project's a year off on the calendar. We want to get more people using Varsity, more people to be on that project or that working group, if you will. They want to put some time in over a summer and kind of come up with how to customize those to better fit the high school math curriculum. That's on the agenda for next summer. Yeah, so Varsity Learning is built off a platform called iMathis, which also runs MyOpenMath and WAMAP. So Varsity Learning is very similar to those, except we have support. Those services are also free, but they're mostly for college students. We actually donated our geometry course to both those platforms as well. So very similar to that, we think we have more support like this, kind of getting everybody ready, suggesting things. Uh, both those platforms have a little bit higher level support for coding your own questions, creating your own stuff. That's kind of how we differentiate, but we're all free right now. But yeah, David Lippman teaches 2-year college in Tacoma, Washington, and he's the creator of this platform.
And how easy is it to like differentiate for like IEP students?
So anybody who needs extra time on exam, that kind of thing. Uh,
So like how would we make sure we're giving them their accommodations?
yeah, so if you're giving a time test, you can do the time limit multiplier. So this will give a student that gets a 60-minute test, they get 90 minutes. Um, that's the big part. So extra time that way on tests, that's the big thing that we see. Um, the ADA compliance, all the math equations, expressions are already ADA compliant, so they work with a reader. If there was a blind student, all the videos should be captioned for hearing impaired students.
And what about ELL or non-native English speaking students? What resources does this provide for them?
That's a good question. On XYZ homework, we have some solutions, but those videos we haven't shared with Varsity Learning yet, but we have
Okay.
Spanish videos that I've spent a lot of time on the last 10 years. But
Are they going to be taking those and eventually adding them to Varsity?
mm, not in the next year,
Okay.
but possibly. Um, some of these videos, there was something about some of these videos being available in Spanish now too. Is that correct? I thought we were.
I mean, even just having the like Spanish subtitles would be
Right,
useful.
right. I thought they did. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. Some of these videos do have, maybe not this one, but a lot of these are becoming, the subtitles are becoming available in Spanish. And it's not because we're doing anything great, it's just that YouTube is starting to provide those. Not yet. Maybe they're not all done yet. But yeah, that's a good question. We know it's a big issue for us in California, obviously. So does everybody have an account?
And
Has everybody been able to log in?
I, yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, what other questions?
I was just gonna ask with like we have to take like a unit out, are they gonna see every unit at first or just the units that they're assigned to?
They would
So like if
only,
you're only in
yeah,
topic A, they can only see topic A.
right. Yeah, so a couple ways to do that. So anything you don't want, you can just delete right away. So you don't have to keep anything you
Hmm.
don't want. Very easy to delete material. And then the way that dates usually work is that there's 2 dates for each assignment, a start date and an end date. Uh, this is no course. Show end date to dates. Go. Okay. So a start date and an end date. So let's see. Just fixed all the dates. Calendar. I didn't do that what I wanted to do. I'm answering your question and fixing the course at the same time. Let's do this. This is kind of a mess. So, okay, almost. Third time is going to be the charm. All right, so I'm just moving the dates up. Cleaning this course up. Okay, so from the calendar, this is usually how students work. Let's tighten up the calendar a little bit so we don't see that. So I see assignment A1 is available now. There's a color to it. So students can just click on this and they can start this assignment. Here it is. And then the rest of A is due on the 16th. And then as a teacher, I see that the assignments over here are due the next Friday. Now from teacher view, this is a teacher view, from student view, I don't see anything in gray. So I log in as a student and I don't see anything except the topics, but I don't see what's coming yet. So students don't see any of that. Yeah, so very easy to either hide it, delete it, or just have it show on a certain date. Very
And then
useful.
is it easy to reopen assignments? Because I know I've got some students that
Mhm.
will inevitably
Yeah,
forget something or need an
right.
adjustment.
Yeah, so a couple things. So first of all, just to reopen it for the entire class, very easy, just to go into that same date setting and just change the date to a few
Okay.
days later for everybody. That does it for everybody. For a
Okay.
particular student or for everybody, we have what are called late passes. And a late pass just assumes that there's going to be students that have valid excuses for not doing their homework. You don't necessarily need to hear about them. So at the start of a semester, start of the month, whatever you want, you just say, I'm giving everybody 5 late passes. And a late pass is going to extend an assignment by a given number of hours that you, the teacher, set. Add this, and now the student has 5 late passes. And then students are doing their homework. They wake up, they realize that this was due the previous day. They can use a late pass. And as soon as they use a late pass, then that extends the due date for, in this case, 144 hours.
Okay. So let's say it's the end of the trimester because we're in trimesters,
Mm-hmm.
and Bobby didn't do the whole like first half
Mm-hmm.
of the course, and now they
Mm-hmm.
want to fix their grade.
Yeah.
Would those late passes allow them to go that far back, or is it only like within that time range that you set?
It's for the time range that you set. You can go then and make them. They can use more than one late pass. So if a late pass for 144, I think is 6 or 7 days. So they could use
Hmm.
5 late passes on one. That gets kind of messy. The other thing you can do if it's
Yeah.
just for one student is called an exception. So you just go into that, make an exception. You say, I want to make an exception for that student for these 2 assignments, and then their new due date is July 3rd, and then save it. So exceptions
Okay.
get kind of messy, but they're available. You kind of really um, need to know that you're using exceptions. Obviously, you can deduct a late pass if they use an exception if you want. You can send a message to the student. There's penalties. You can set a penalty for any work done during a late pass or exception as well. But every time you do an exception, it's for that particular student and for specific assignments. Whereas late
Okay.
passes are just for everybody, and there's no involvement once you've done the initial set. But good question.
Okay.
And then if it's a missed school, you just need to extend the deadline for an assignment. That's just a date change. So
Okay.
three different levels of that.
And have you seen this used with a school that's like on a block period? So like you see them every other day?
Not particularly. I don't know if it'd be
Okay.
that much different. I used to, it worked in a lab when I was teaching. The school had just built a lab with new iMacs, and the principal was very much wanted the faculty to be in the lab using the computer lab for something other than internet games. And so when we used this, and then we had some activities set up, so not just doing their online homework, but actually using the forums to go to other math websites and creating. We had some good Desmos activities linked to the forums in here, so everybody can kind of follow along on the Desmos site. The principal would come in. It was pretty impressive for her to see that the lab that they put so much time into was being used for, the principals generally like to see the labs used for STEM activities. And so
Hmm.
it worked pretty well for
And
that.
then
Students like it too.
the other question that I have is, oh no, I just lost it. If like we have our students for like 2 hour chunks of
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
um, so in terms of like a flipped model
Mm-hmm.
of learning, would this help facilitate that?
I think so. I think it helps a lot because um, you just post in here what you want them to know, right? Here's the vocab you need to know. Here's the properties. Here's the videos I want you to watch. And then you can work a few of these assignments at home and then come to class. Now, the other thing about for another feature I didn't show you, but since you brought up a flip model, um, if I go back to this question screen I showed you, so here's an assignment that we created. You can create a print version of any of these assignments, and because it's algorithmic, you can create different versions of that single assignment. So they could come to class with a flip model, work a few of those problems, and then instead of you having to create a worksheet every day, you can use Varsity to create a Word file that has different versions of those assignments and then put a little bit of time into formatting them, and then you have a nice handout for your flipped classroom if you want. I didn't do that, but if I would have clicked, that would have created a Word file, and everything in the Word file, including the equations and questions, are editable. And it would create two different versions of that assignment.
And then how flexible is your like answer entering system? So like if they go space -3, is it going to mark them wrong, or does it kind of ignore some of those extra
Good question.
typing things that they do?
Yeah, so the spaces will not get marked wrong. Something like this,
Okay.
if it's 0.4, they have to put the open dot or closed dot, and then it has to be
Hmm.
fairly close. A lot of the graphs have what we call a snap to grid, so it's going to snap to the integer values automatically. So this doesn't have a snap to grid, so if the answer was um, negative -0.1, that would probably be wrong. We can actually see, I guess, can't we? Yeah, so that's wrong. So I guess the answer is it depends on the question type. But
Okay.
generally, these little tips will tell the student if their answer needs to be a decimal or a fraction, and then it wants the student to answer that way. Obviously, if
Okay.
you're teaching a pre-algebra class, you want your students to enter fractions when you're doing
Yes.
fractions and not a decimal because they did it on their calculator. So it'll force them to enter a fraction if that's the answer type that is being assigned.
Okay, just as long as it kind of tells them, because I know some of the kids have gotten frustrated with online learning in that they enter an answer, it's correct, but because they added an extra space, it marked them wrong.
Yes. So we
So,
don't have any issues with spaces. It will ignore the extra spaces. Um, it's usually the students not looking at the tips here. Uh, yeah, tip, and you enter as an integer or decimal, which makes sense for this problem. But if it
yeah.
was a fraction, and they entered the decimal, it's going to be wrong, mostly. Because it
Okay.
will say
And
enter
then
the
it'll tell
decimal.
them your answer needs to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then also the way we have the settings set, and you have complete control of the settings, but the 3 attempts and then show the student the correct answer. Once they realize they're not counted off for entering it incorrectly, here's the correct answer. Now I get to try number 14 again, and now they enter it correctly. I'm not going to actually do this. And then they get full credit for it. It really alleviates that stress because it's not like they got one try and the system marked them down for having the extra space.
When it has them retry problem, does it give them the exact same problem or does it change the numbers?
Yeah, it changes the numbers.
Okay.
Yep. Now there is, we say there's an infinite number. There's not an infinite number. It's just math, right? So a problem like this, there is going to be thousands, I'm guessing, maybe more than thousands. But with the algebra problems, if the answer comes out to be an integer, then all the versions of that question should also have integer answers or negative integer answers. So we code them pretty tightly. So there's not an infinite number. There's not even thousands for the most part. There's probably dozens of different variations of the questions. But that just means that the students are getting a closer version of that problem. Every student's question is going to be more similar.
Okay, well, I think you've answered all of my questions. So unless the gentlemen have any, I am good.
Anybody else? Gordon? Trevor, any questions? Yep. Yeah, so it's the beginning of summer, and we're just encouraging people to um, get into it, talk about it with their colleagues in your department, see if it's going to work. Um, as you get more questions, you can email us, and we'll answer them. As it gets closer to the start of school, we're certainly happy to schedule another webinar with everyone. Certainly is going to have questions as you're starting to get students involved. So we're happy to do that as well. So if anybody at your school needs an account, just send us an email at the support email, support@varsitylearning.com, and Kendra will be able to answer that for you. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.